Welcome to Urban Revolution. I'm One Iam, and on my right is Debbie, my co-host.
Hey everyone, how are you tonight?
Uh, we're here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and Revolution Radio is entirely listener supported. Uh, we run by listener contributions in order to, keep us on the air and everything. And, we have good shows and all kinds of different interesting topics and everything throughout the network. And, it's worth a couple of dollars or $100 or just listen in and check out the radio shows and everything. And if you like them, hit the donate button and contribute a little money to keep us on the air. Tonight, we're going to have a controversial topic. We're going to talk about the word nigger.
And other slangs.
Yeah, and maybe some other slangs are coming in. But basically, last week, we were talking about the American dream, and I said the word nigger a couple of times while talking about the American dream, and then Kevin, the master of many things, called me on the word. And I had a little discussion with Kevin about the word, but I didn't have enough time to really get deeply into the word and to break it down so that everybody understood why I still use the word. And then a friend of mine that I talked with later has suggested to me that maybe you should do a show on the word nigger. So I said, oh, okay, yeah, that might work. And then I said, okay, I'll do it. And I started investigating the word nigger and etc. So that's the topic for tonight. Now, first of all, nigger is a word, and words are meant to be used, and they're meant to be written. A word is a sound or a combination of sounds, or its representation in writing or printing that symbolizes and communicates a meaning and may consist of a single morpheme or a combination of morphemes. A morpheme being a meaningful linguistic unit consisting of a word. So, nigger is a word. As a matter of fact, I found the word nigger in several dictionaries and in encyclopedias. The word nigger from Metapedia, which is nigger, nigga, or niglet, which is a child, is a term used to refer to dark-skinned people, mostly those of African descent, but not necessarily those of African descent. Again, I'm going to say that again because this is extremely important. Nigger is a term used to refer to dark-skinned people, mostly those of African descent, but not necessarily those of African descent. It could be some of Indian descent, or some other form of dark-skinned people, but it's just a reference to dark-skinned people. So, if you're dark-skinned, basically you're a nigger.
Well, I guess I couldn't be a nigger, huh?
Why?
Because I'm not dark skinned.
Well, you are of African ancestry and your skin is dark. That would make you a nigger. Now, the word nigger in itself is not bad. It's not a bad word at all. It has no negative connotation other than to denote that it's a person of African ancestry or an Indian of darker ancestry. As a matter of fact, you might have two white guys talking and one saying, well, Joe, I just hired a guy. His name is Johnny. Okay. and he'll be in tomorrow at about 10 o'clock. Okay. And by the way, Joe, Johnny is a nigger. Okay. All he's saying is that Johnny is a dark-skinned person of African descent. He's being descriptive, okay, and using the word and the term in that way. Now, earlier variants such as Nigger or Nigger, they Nigger, derived N-E-G-E-R, or Nigger, N-E-G-A-R, they derive from the Spanish Portuguese word negro, and negro meaning black. Okay, so nigger, nigor, nigger, negro, these are words that mean black, and probably also French négre, which has also been used pejoratively. You know, they use négre, you know, in a negative way sometimes, but positively as in nigritude. That's a positive way to use Negro and nigritude. It's derived from Negro, the ordinary French word for black, being noir or noir, both Negro and noir, and therefore also nigra and nigger ultimately come from nigrum, the accusation form of the Latin adjective word Niger, meaning black. In colonial America, nigars, like with a G-A-R, N-E-G-A-R-S, was used in 1619 by John Rolfe, describing slave ships shipped to Virginia colony. Nigger, which is N-E-G-E-R, sometimes spelled nigar, well, they would say nigger, you know, N-E-G-G-A-R, also prevailed in northern New York under the Dutch, and also in Philadelphia in its Moravian and Pennsylvanian Dutch communities. For example, the African burial ground in New York City was originally known as the Grafplaats van de Nigger, which Dutch meaning was the cemetery of the Negro, which is the cemetery of the Negroes, saying the cemetery of the dark-skinned people, the niggers, in English. Now, in the United States, the word nigger was not always considered derogatory, but was instead used by many as merely denotive of black skin, as it was in other parts of the English-speaking world. In 19th century literature, there are many uses of the word nigger with no intended negative connotation. Charles Dickens and Joseph Conrad, who published The Nigger of Narcissus in 1897, used the word without racist intent. Mark Twain often put the word into the mouths of his characters, white and black, but he did not use the word when writing as himself in his autobiographical Life on the Mississippi.
Well, he wrote about it. It says that Mark Twain, actually, the word occurs more than 200 times in Huckleberry Finn, first published in 1884, and in its predecessor in 1876, in which they did go in, which is the Adventures of Tom Sawyer, which tells the story of the boys' adventures along the Mississippi River in mid-19th century. In addition, the word has been replaced. If it wasn't offensive, they replaced it.
They replaced the word
with instances of slave.
Well, you broke into my my explanation here, but I was going to get to Huck Finn. And that's good that you did, but they used the word nigger in Huck Finn to describe Jim, the big nigger. Jim was a nigger. He was a dark-skinned person of African descent. Okay? No negative connotation meant other than to say that Jim was of African descent. You don't have to use he was a dark-skinned person of African descent every time you want to speak about a black person, you know, when you can easily just say he was a nigger. there's nothing wrong or negative about the word nigger. Now, in the United Kingdom and other parts of the English-speaking world, the word was often used to refer to people of Pakistani or Indian descent, because they didn't have a whole lot of blacks over there back in the day, but they did have Indians and stuff that were coming over that were dark skinned. So they would refer to the Indians as niggers, which means nothing negative or anything, but the guys of a dark skinned ancestry. And in the 1800s, nigger began to acquire its negative connotations, that it holds today. The term, then they tried to get away from the term nigger and go to colored, which gained popularity as a kind of gentler alternative to Negro and associated terms. For example, abolitionists in Boston, Massachusetts posted warnings to colored people of Boston and vicinity. The name of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People reflects the preference for this term at the time of the NAACP's founding in 1909. They wanted to get away from the word nigger as a description of black people and go to colored, okay? Now, the Southern dialect in many parts of Southern United States changes the pronunciation of Negro to Negra. And what's his name? Lyndon B. Johnson was famous for calling what black people wanted to be called Negro, but he would always call them Negra. And he was a proponent of civil rights, signed the Civil Rights Bill. Okay? Black became the preferred term in English in the late 1960s. And this continues to the present day in the United States, that this has been displaced to some extent, though, by African American. So you can go black or African American, at least in politically correct usage. This resembles the term Afro-American that was vogue in the early 1970s. Nevertheless, black continues in widespread use as a racial designation in the United States and is rarely regarded as offensive. Of course, when I was growing up, the worst thing you could call a person was black in our communities and in our neighborhoods and everything. You could call them an MF, a B, any other thing, but if you put black on it, then you really hurt them. You know what I'm saying? That was just something they didn't want to call, although everybody today wants to be called black. But the thing about the terms that they use now, whether it be colored, whether it be Negro, whether it be black, African American, or whether it be Nucker, Nigger, whatever, Jigger. Jigger is just another way of saying, it's a hip hop way of saying nigger. So Jay-Z, he calls himself Jigger. He's the Jigger, the nigger. Okay. No, I guess you don't take a negative connotation to that. Okay. But like I was saying, with the word colored, with the word Negro, with the word black, African American, they are all based upon the foundation word. These words are based on the foundation word. The foundation word for black people is nigger. So when you put colored, okay, don't call them nigger no more. Let's call them colored. So then when anybody says, well, he's colored, then your reference to him would be, I have to go back to the base word. If he's colored, that means he's a nigger. Okay? You go back, you say, well, he's a black guy. He's a black guy. What does that mean? You go, it takes you right back to the base word, the foundation word for black people again. He's a black guy. That means he's a nigger. Okay? African American. These are words that are piled on top of the foundation word. The original word for what these people are in the English